Okay, Jim.
Hi Elliot, how late were you today? Be truthful, come on.
We're not talking about that.
Okay, fine.
However, what we are going to talk about
Right.
is a style of fishing that you would class or call off the radar. Now, people will have heard you say that many, many times, but for those of us that haven't, describe that kind of fishing to me. What does that term mean to you?
Freedom. What I mean by freedom is, can I talk freely about this?
Yep.
Just away from the normal bollocks of modern day carp fishing. I like the peace and quiet more than anything. Like listen to it now, you know. All we're going to hear here is the animals, the birds, and if a carp jumps out, you know, things like that. Like the dragonflies going around us, you know, just normal things, not loads of spoms, someone casting across, someone sheeping you up and all the rest of it. Now I'd rather have the negative put, the only part, the negative put as hiding from people where you shouldn't be. Yeah, now off the radar means lakes that are not known, like, you know, they're fished. They could be club waters, quiet syndicate, really quiet syndicates, or you get into the nitty gritty. What I mean by off the radar is maybe you shouldn't be there. Now, what I like, I've been doing it over quite a few years now. The Fen reserves, I don't mind talking about that, to be fair now. The Mere and these other places, I call them projects, off the radar projects. And it's, I can go and bait. I'm known as a big baiter. I don't bait these days. I think we've touched on this subject before because, you know, you can't get in the same swim. If you're in a quiet area, people come on top of you and spoil it, let alone Mr. Carp might leg it. So when you can find the spot, let's call it, or one of the few spots, and you can bait it and bait it and bait it and bait it, you know how long I'm baiting for it because you've been well aware of what's happened. And I've been baiting this certain place since the 3rd week of February. And it's just baiting and no fishing. My plan was to fish this water in May, and I started going over there in April. I couldn't help myself.
Why do you do so much baiting? What's the reason behind that for people that may not quite understand why you would bait for so long?
Well, this lake, they're wild carp, so this is not like, they're just wild, you know. They eat the bugs, and I know all carp eat them, but what I'm trying to say is they don't know what carp anglers' baits are. So I'm having to wean them onto them. So, but I don't want to be caught. So my main fishing is bait, just bait, bait, bait. But what I do with that is I mix in one of the best carp attractors in the world, and it's called salt, pink Himalayan rock salt. And I probably put in minimum 200 kilos of that in this time period. It'd be more if I was to sit there and work it out. It sounds a lot, but once Mr. Carp finds a sodium free-for-all, let's call it, which is salt, he will just keep going back. You know, he'll touch the bottom, rub up, oh, what's that? Start feeding on it. And then he then finds out what, well, a carp bait is. It could be, you know, I'm using boilies, I'm not using particles or anything, pellets or anything. Occasionally I do put some pellets out, but I'm not baiting with them. It's just mass baiting with boilies. Now, they start picking them up because they can see them, they can smell them, and as he picks it up, over time, no, it's not even over time, it's quite quickly. He'll know if that's good for him, and what I mean by that is he'll get a sense of well-being. So he gets his salt hit, which a carp, that's the hardest thing for a carp to find, and he'll keep going back to that same spot. Now if you were putting that all over the lake, we spoke about this before, it's just not an edge. But when you've got the lake to yourself and you can bait 1 or 2 areas, and if I did two areas, it would be one on the south wind and one on the north wind. But I've stuck with 1 swim only. Now if I started in mid-May, March, April, May, June, July, we're July, aren't we? So I'm over 5 months in. I've had well over 50 carp from there. Most are small and most I flip back. Not because I'm not happy catching them, it's because I want to get the rod back out, because the next bite could be something mega special. Once I've taken a few photos of sort of carp between 15 and 19 pound, and they're commons, they all look the same unless you get something really special, then I might. But I don't want to be getting camera equipment out to doing self-takes. It's just flash, time, you're not watching the lake and all the rest of it. 38.8 off the radar special. Mistral baits, Atlantic crab, 20-inch boom on it.
You mentioned watching the lake, so if you're the only person fishing these lakes, you know, when we've got other anglers all over the place, it's much easier to gather information. How important is your groundwork before you start fishing on a venue where you are the only man?
Well, I've been watching this lake for 2 years, and I started walking it in January. Just watching, looking, just go over there for first light. I'm not worrying about really seeing them. It was just to get the feel of the lake. I knew where I wanted to be, and I don't really... let's just say it's the best area for carp to get away from things they might not want to be up close and personal with. So I knew it'd be an area they would visit. It's not just the feel of the place, it's like looking for places to hide. You know, like, where can you be seen? There's so many scenarios, you know, because you just don't want to draw attention to yourself. And then you've got to look at, like, you know, you're going to start baiting up, you don't want to leave tracks, and as well, the cover is so, you know, like when we get into May, we are getting serious cover, but before that, hiding is really difficult, and day manoeuvres was not really worth it. Looking quickly is good, but it was like night manoeuvres. But I didn't do a hell of a lot of time till at least May time, and then I really started to pull out all the stops where, you know, things were happening that much, I would risk being caught.
Some people might frown upon the fact that you're going into
I don't
places
really care what they
and-
say.
No, that's fair
Sorry,
enough. That's
sorry.
fair enough.
Each their own, Elliot.
Something you mentioned this morning was letting things go back to nature. So you're going into these places, but you're doing everything you can to leave everything as you found it, to cause no problems. You're just there to catch fish.
Yeah, you've sort of missed something there. I'm not there just to catch fish. That is a part of the end product. What I'm actually there for is peace and quiet. In old age now, I'm 53, you know, I just love watching all what's going on, like here, all these, look, just flies, dragonflies all over the water and all the rest of it. You know, that is the bigger picture for me. The carp is the very end product. So it's a balance of freedom is what I want, peace and quiet. I've done circuit stuff. I like to be called, because I have done quite a bit of pioneering over the years, caught carp that haven't got no names, they're not known about. So I call myself a shepherd, and I let the sheep try and follow me. If you know what I mean, don't you? You know, we don't need to bring all of that up. But basically I do it for peace and quiet. That's all I want, honestly. It's just the quiet. I'm too old for all this modern day. It's bad enough on social media, you know what I mean? It's actually on meltdown at the moment.
So if you look back over the years at the fishing that you've done on these kind of venues, which campaigns hang in your mind? Possibly, but
Yeah.
you know, that's a carp in particular, but I'm sure there's been other campaigns where you've maybe caught more fish that what you think I'm talking about is one particular carp. The culmination of everything leads to that one fish, but I'm sure you've had other campaigns where you've caught several carp that are all very, very special in their own right.
Well, we sat there this morning, didn't we? And I was showing you photos. We were trying to work out my top 10. And there's so many, like scaly ones, old ones, special ones, unknowns. It's just mind-blowing when you sit there, and that's just a few pictures that are on my phone. That's not everything. And, you know, I suppose when you set yourself a target, a personal target, to catch Mary, that's like got to be number one. The other one was two-tone, and then the final part of the jigsaw was the black mirror. Yeah, you shouldn't have been there, or I shouldn't have been there, but all the people that went before me, I was just one of the lucky ones that got that prize after so much hard work, because it was a real mission to get in there, and the story's outlined in my second book, Carp in Aftercut. And I can remember people saying to me, "You haven't caught anything, Jim." But look, I was fishing an area where it's known to come from 70% of the time. I was there for one bite, one fish, and I needed that fish as quickly as possible. The adventure was unbelievable, but things could go wrong so fast. You just don't know. It could be raided, you know, and you've got a problem where you might end up somewhere you shouldn't be, and then you've got, you know, if you want to go back and then you get caught, you've got real problems, because you're sticking your fingers up to something where you've been told off. I'm trying to keep it all like nice and not sort of savage. So it's got to be the Black Mirror, just for so many reasons. The prestige, what it is, how few people actually caught it, and how difficult it was to get in there. And when I do this type of fishing, I really don't give two shits about authority and all the rest of it. I just don't care. You know, there's a place just been raided at the weekend. I've already caught them all, but a few days later I had a rod in there, couldn't help myself. I'm not bothered, I just ain't bothered. Sorry, I'm just not bothered. You know, it's the way it is. But the fishing is exciting, and let's not keep on maybe breaking the authority part so much. You know, you catch carp that from certain waters that are not known, and this is some of what I've been doing this year. And you know, when that rod goes, you really don't know what's on the end, and you touch it, like we had a couple this morning, and you could probably say at least one of them carps never had a hook in its mouth. The fights are unbelievable. They are a totally different animal. You look in their mouth, it's so pristine. There's not a blemish. They feed on the ultimate natural food in abundance at the time. You know, it's like you yourself, if you were sitting there eating fish, seafood and a bit of fillet steak, you'd look the best, you'd feel the best. And these are what these creatures are. They're animals, they're wild animals. And I've tricked them into eating my bait. And so much people that know, and I mean people that I could trust, just couldn't believe the amount of effort I put into baiting this campaign and what I've caught. Topped by like a, I don't know, what would you call it, like a breeze block, innit? It's an unbelievable animal, 46 pound 10 ounce. And the take, as soon as you very rarely get bleeps, they're just like the most savage take from nothing to going with, and I'm fishing braid, and like this, occasionally you get them and they come out of deep water and they actually half jump out because they're scared, you know, and then they just go and go and go and go and go. I've had quite a few now go between 70 and 100 yards. The furthest one, I would say, a 35-12 mirror went at least 120 to 150 yards. Could not stop it in any way, shape or form. It was one continuous run, unbelievable. But getting back to the biggest one I've had out of there, this fish just, when it come out of the water, I had a mate with me just come down for a bit of company, and it just took off. The rod had only been out 49 minutes, and it was just like 80 to 90 yards, and you're just holding on to it. You can't lift the rod, just the sheer pressure and power they exert in their bid to go. Freedom, I'm going to say that word, because they don't know what it's all about. You can't get that rod up. You've got your finger on the spool, trying to slow it down. You're trying to bring the rod up to get some sort of leverage to try and slow it, and your finger's like burning with the braid. There is a balance. When you've got braid, there's no stretch. You know, you've got to be slightly aware and careful that you don't want to be ripping hooks out and stuff like that, because it's a lost fish then. But once they stop, you just get this massive, like the rod just shakes violently, as it's like they've come to like, I've run out of energy, what's gone on, and they're just shaking their head like that. And then you can then feel the carp. That's when it all slows down. And then it's just like, you just pray, because you know when you've got a good one on, or a better one, you just pray that they stay on. And well, after about 15 minutes, I'd already said to my mate Francis that this was like, I call them a ginormodon. I knew it was a big one, is what I mean. And as it come up in front of me and I could see its bulk, it was a massive common. And when you see the video footage, you'll see what it's all about. And when it went in the net, it was unbelievable. Spots coming together. 46 10 ounce. I've had a 38.5 and a 36 mirror as well. But once you see this, I'm done. Awesome battle. Oh man, Mistral Baits Atlantic crab and the old hinge stiff again.
Okay, so after the summer comes autumn, and I think as carp anglers, when we go into the autumn, we're always making plans. There's always a big autumn plan, and what was yours?
Get back to the guesting lake, I've always had unfinished business there. One of my good mates, Tom, I mean, he done it quick time, had the ones that everyone wanted and fish that no one's ever seen before. It was unbelievable. Do you know, I was away in Cambridge one weekend, come back and he was like, have a look at this. And it was the most immense looking mirror, £39, never seen a hook sort of thing, you know. So that has been on my mind ever since I've seen the picture. And I don't know what fish I lost in the spring, but I lost a few fish due to different circumstances, you know, hook pulls or not being close enough to my rod and didn't get there in time or something. But that one's always been there, do you know, that and another common. So one of them this autumn, if I caught one of them, that was like my autumn done. So that was like my go-to, you know, give it everything I've got, scrounge as much bait as I could. I mean, in them 2 weeks, I'd hate to think how much bait I used in September. With no one else being on the lake, I kind of wanted the fish to come to me more than me chase them around, you know, so I wanted it as easy for me to get there and leave without being seen, the van as close as I could get it, you know, everything in my favour. So I started filling it in a certain corner, going to El's freezer, 20mm Atlantic heats. They were just the winners, you know, getting by like a 5 kilo bag, and I'd just give it to them as much as I could. And the more I give them, the more I was catching, and it was almost every morning, until the point where I'd know roughly a sort of time I'd get the bite, and I'd set my camera up, and I'd get one taking, like, get my rod zipping off on film. And yeah, it was almost like clockwork, and you get such in tune with the lake, and you know when the birds starting to chirp, like the same flock of Canadian geese would go over every morning, like God knows where they're going, but they was doing it like there was in a bus, you know what I mean, all together going to the same spot. So yeah, the little things that you notice when you're sitting there, that was the cool bit.
Another beautiful wet morning, and I've caught a carp. First carp since July 22nd. I haven't been in ages, but it's nice to get out with a power. Let's go and see what it's looking like there. What does that look like there, Burr? Oh, that's well nice. It's had a little wound before, a few scales are like scattered. Go on. Get that net off my phone. Happy days. How's that look? Lovely, man. Fat old dumpy thing. So yeah, first carp I've caught since July 22nd. Not saying the bug was lost, but there's other things to do, isn't there? But it's nice to get out in autumn. Sending off a big bait up.
What I've done.
What have you done? Oh no. On the end of the wind for a couple of hours with the zigs. Good southwesterly coming this morning, so it's worth a few hours at least. Looking good. Got Doris here, look, having a kip. She loves it. Come on the rods. Do you remember the 21st night of September? Look how amazing that moon is. It's 10:30 at night. I'm fishing 2 rods on my pre-baited spot. Doris is asleep, warming up the sleeping bag, and I get to sit here and watch that. Look, that is fucking special. The only thing that could possibly make this night any better is to catch a carp. That would be a bonus to such a fine evening, wouldn't it? Fingers crossed for the big uns. Look at you, bless your little heart, look. It's some old muntjacks. Oh, an old muntjack, didn't you, Gil? Hey. Whoa. Get his fucking net off. Hold the net on now. Check this out. Oh, she's lovely. Look at the colours on her. Oh, let's flip around. Get a view of the other side. Yeah, wow. Happy days, man. The colours are like mad. See you later. Hi guys. Another morning down the old pit. It's looking good. Caught one little one last night. Well, say last night, this morning. Let me show you the little darling. So down here, look. Only a little common. I'll send it back. I need pictures of that.
Okay, so you're getting bites, you're catching fish regularly, and we all know the feeling when that's happening, the anticipation starts to creep in. All the doubt leaves, you know, once you're getting into them, doubt leaves your mind and confidence enters your mind. I imagine that's very much how you started to feel around that period.
I feel like I couldn't put a foot wrong. I feel like I was having recaptures, I was having new fish I haven't seen before. The only thing I was missing was one of them too, you know? The nice big common and that really nice mirror, the ones both my friend Tom caught. So one of them was definitely on the cards, and I was giving them so much food. A big fish like that, it's inevitable for them to find it and them not to be eating. I mean, they're only that big for some reason, and that reason is because they grub a lot, didn't they? And yeah, I don't know, I must have had 4 or 5 bites, I reckon. Couple of recaptures all morning, clockwork, knew what time they were coming, knew what time I had to leave for work. Sometimes I could ring up Michael and be like, look, I'm coming in late, or sometimes I'd bring Michael up and go, I'm not coming in at all, and he was fine. I mean, he's got a heart of gold. Michael was well understanding of like how much I wanted to be there. And yeah, just one morning, sitting there, it was like major blue sky, all the birds chirping, and the rod just went into meltdown. And you know it's a good fish, soon as you hit into one, they just go a bit different, didn't they? Yeah, it just was different. It stayed really deep and just went straight out into the middle, like it knew exactly where it was going, to the deepest part of the lake, and just carried on out. And where I was fishing margins, you kind of got to let them do it, to be honest, because I've held on to them before for God knows what reason. There's no snags anywhere. You can just let them do what they want. For some reason before, I've held on, clamped on, and just, you know, ding, straight hook, see you later. So I've kind of learnt to not be a bully and just let them go. But yeah, like this, plenty of weight behind it. You just got to let them sail out, and when they turn, just got like gain as much as you can when you can. And it's when I see the dorsal, that's when I knew it was that one, because the dorsal bone was, do you know, as it come up and you see it break the surface and you see the shoulders, it was, yeah, I thought, fuck, you know what that is, it. I know exactly what one that is. I finally did it. Oh, I'm so happy, man. That is buzzing. 35 pound, 4 ounce. She went. She's just in the net now. I'm waiting for my twin brother to come down.
and do me some photos and footage. But I've been waiting a long time for this. It's taken a few springs, I think, 2 springs and 2 autumns. This is my 2nd autumn. So I'm fucking buzzing. She's a little bit lower weight than I thought. My mate had her at 38. He's the one who found out about her, so big up to my boy Thomas. He was the first, and now I am the 2nd. Ah, yes, mate. Wait till you see this. Gobstopper, we call it. The mouth on the old girl. You see them dots there? My old man put them dots on that rod for me 15 years ago. Maybe longer, 17 years ago. So I never got my rods mixed up. Yeah, this is a Fox Piker heavy dead baitlet, 3 1/4. 52 quid my man paid for these rods and give them to me when I was a little boy. And that one with the red dots has always been my lucky one. Guess what I just caught that fish on? Love you, Dad. Everyone I ever catch is always for you. Happy days. She's a beast. We did it, didn't we? We fucking did it. Check this out. Check that out. Oh, I wanted her so bad. She's big. 35.4. That's the biggest fish I've caught all year. Have a look at that mouth, look, Jay. Look. Unbelievable, the size of it. I only got 1 barblet. And the eyes, man. The eyes on it are just enormous. Everything's big on it. Look. Big dorsal, big melted, look, flipper fin, look. See how it folds over? See that? Look at it, man. Just so much character about it. You see, boy, I wanted to catch it so much. Just everything about it, it's a dinosaur, man. Just such a cool carp. And this year, because of how clear the water was, when I got the fish in the net, it just looked immense. To be fishing this lake for so long, you know, I've done a couple of springs and a couple of autumns, and I've watched my friends catch them, and I've always been happy. Like, it's always good to share someone else's moment with them. But then, obviously, you want a certain amount of moments for yourself, you know? And that's always been one of my goals, to go there and catch one of these almost unknowns or uncaught. Amazing carp. So to end this autumn catching one of them was like, yeah, perfect. Couldn't write it any better. To be fair, I couldn't write it any better in my own diary. You know, some words aren't made ready for that sort of thing.
Now, one thing I really wanted to talk to you about, Mark, is a campaign that took place off the park during your time in this area. I don't know how much you want to say about it, but it was I sort of half. So we certainly spoke a lot during that period, so I felt like I at least knew what was going on. And you were fishing for what has to be said was like a real couple of two dinosaurs.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that campaign, because it's the maddest thing, really?
Yeah. It was at a time when I moved up to the water park in the first couple of years, and I was fishing, I say, on and off the water park for that time. And one particular water, which was a nature reserve, sparked my interest. I'd been tipped off a guy who caught a really big fish from there, And he'd show me the pictures, and I was like, bloody, I'll keep that one close to my chest. And I had no intentions of sort of fishing it really. So one day I sort of found myself in that area, and I thought, I'd just go for a little wander. And I walked around it, and I just fell in love with the place in terms of how wild and, because it's a triple SI venue, how beautiful it was. And I thought, I didn't see anything that day, but it sort of set the seed a little bit. And I thought, right, this is, I'd love to fish, but I knew fishing it brought loads of problems in terms of there was bird watchers on there was wardens, all sorts. So it was a real case of, I really want to fish it, but how am I going to get in and out and fish it effectively? All the while I was trying to juggle my bait company, I couldn't spend weeks and time and days over there. So I sort of hatched a plan of how I was going to fish it. Revolved around putting lots of food in, lots of bait, travelling down. But I thought I needed to find a way of getting in and out undetected and being able to keep fishing gear over there. So I sort of hatched a plan. I thought, right, well, the lake in question, there's a road, or sort of a built-up area, not about a mile away, something like that. I thought, well, if I can park my van there, I can then cycle all down like a mile in almost, down the road with a rucksack on, and I can get to the back of a field, and then I can ditch the bike and then travel 2 or 3 fields in the end over right to the back of this reserve where no one else goes at the back, because if there's access for the bird watchers is on one side. And I thought, if I can get to the back area, then I can get in, and no one's going to see me coming in and out. So I thought, right, okay, I need to get some kit over there. And this was the challenging bit, is how do I get rods, buzzers, landing net, all that? How do I, because wardens do patrol it, and I thought, I've got to find a way of getting stuff over there and keeping it out of sight, out of mind. So I hatched another plan. At Baitworks, we had all the big ingredients tubs, and they were, full of all your milk proteins and whatnot. So I had a couple of spare ones of them. So I thought, right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over on a full moon, because it's just about to see what's going on a full moon, and I'm going to bury a box over there, dig it in, cover it. Obviously, I had some camo netting as well. I'll cover it over, but effectively dig it down, dig it in, and put some rods, reels, unhooking mat, everything you need to fish in this one little box. I bought some rods, which was spinning rods. I think they're like 4 or 5 piece, tiny little things. All go together, and I cut the tips down and just like super glued an eye on it, basically. So they're like, I don't know, 2 pound test curve, really, really undergunned, but I could get it in this box, more importantly. So I went over on a full moon just with the box, no other kit, and a shovel. And it was at the time, unluckily for me, a girl had gone missing in that area. And it was all over the news. And subsequently, she was killed, unfortunately. But so this was all going on, sort of, and I was thinking, shit, it's the full moon tonight, and this is all over the news, and I want to go out, but this is in the area where they're looking. I'm like, this is a bit dodgy. So I was like, well, I just thought, I'll be okay. So I've gone over there. I've turned my phone off because I had visions of them tracking a phone, and all that. So turned the phone off and everything. I've cycled down the street with a big Tupperware box on my shoulder and a shovel. Cycled into where I need to get to. Ditched the bike, and then walked the 3 fields with a shovel and a box on my back. And I'm thinking, and there's helicopters like not circling me, but I can hear the helicopters in the back. And I'm thinking, if I get caught now, I'll be in dire straits here. So I've got to the spot, and I thought, well, I've got to do it as quickly as possible. And it's about sort of 11, 12 o'clock at night. And I've started digging. I've dug a massive hole. I've just got to the end of the hole, and I'm thinking, right, that fits. That's perfect. And a helicopter's sort of gone pretty close over, and I've proper shut myself. I'm just like, Mark, what are you doing? This is crazy. If they find you doing this, you're going to be sort of strung up. So I put the box in, put the cover on, put the camo netter on, camo net in, got rid of the earth in the next field, and then walked out the 3 fields and then cycled back. But I had a box all set there, all sunken, lovely jubbly. So I was like, brilliant. Right, the next 3 days, I started taking kit over there. And unfortunately, that woman was found killed not too far away, actually, as it happens. But anyway, I took gear over, put the rods in, put everything in there, and the landing net. I thought, well, how do I get a landing net? It's too big. So I basically tied a bit of lead to the spreader block and basically put it out in the lake and sunk it on the bottom. So I had it sunk down on the bottom, and then I put a stick where the end of it was, so I could basically, if I caught a fish, I'd go out to the water's edge, feel for this stick. I knew the landing net was right next to it, pick it up, shuffle it up, and that worked a treat. So that landing net was in situ there for a long time. By the time I finished over there, I brought it up, it had like loads of, it looked like a load of barnacles on it and that. It was all weed coming off it and shrimps and snails. It was like really heavy in the end, but yeah, done the trick. So I put all the gear over there, all ready to go. And then I was, that was in the winter. And then the spring, I thought, right, spring now is when I'm going to start sort of fishing it. So I started baiting it in April, April the 1st, started trickling bait in, and then basically built that bait up. And I was putting in sort of tigers, hemp and boilies, and then increased the boilie size, and then just fed just boilies for the last sort of few weeks, and then started to think about fishing it, which are going to be sort of in May time. The lake was very shallow, so they did tend to spawn quite early there. So got to sort of May time, hadn't seen much activity, but I was literally going down every 2 or 3 days with a rucksack full of bait, cycling in, same procedure all the way around the back. I forget to mention, I had a small pair of chest waders in the box as well. Put the chest waders on, you'd wade out into the reserve as far as you could go, and you'd hit like a little clay lip before it went down into silt. And that was the spot. I just literally tip everything in there, so it was all really quiet. Used to put in sort of 5 to 6 keys, whatever I could carry over there, 2 or 3 times a week. And it got to, say, the last sort of last week of May, and then other people started to sort of have a look over there and started to sort of turn up. And I was like, oh. But the people who was turning up to fish it, they weren't as what's the word? They weren't as secretive, I suppose, or careful as what I've been in terms of going the back. They would come in the main route. They was leaving their fishing tackle on the far side, and I was like, oh man, this is a disaster. If they get rumbled, they might do a sweep, I might get fined. So had to try and put those guys off. So there's a couple of tricks I employed, I should say, which helped. One was I had a friend who's an avid shooter. So where their fishing gear was, I went over and found all their fishing gear, and I could have just taken it, but that just wasn't in my blood. So I thought, no, can't do that. I've got to try and scare them off. So I left a load of empty gunshot cartridges all around the swim and the area, and that seemed to do the tricks there. The next couple of weeks, the fishing gear had gone, and they never returned on that one. So yeah, hopefully I just sort of deflected a couple of anglers there. But managed to get the bait in anyway, and started fishing it early May. And as soon as I was only fishing one night a week, something like that. So bait, fish one night a week, and I was catching sort of between 3 and 4 fish a morning. And to put it in perspective, I only thought there was like 10 carp in there. I didn't know how many carp was in there. I probably guess now there's probably more like 30. And I pretty much caught a lot of fish early on. All through that season, but not the couple that I sort of I wanted, if you like. And so I was fishing, I was going back, and it was exhausting work because you literally, I'm leaving, I'll be with the missus and that. This is in April, so it wouldn't get dark till sort of late, and I'll be over there baiting up, and I wouldn't get back till like 11, 12 o'clock, and then I'll fish it, and you'd go over there. I'd go over there in the dark, cycle all the way, I'd wear a high vis in, so I look like someone going to work or doing something, and then walk in, and then you'd fish all through the night, sleeping on the floor, which is absolute hell. I don't know if anyone slept on the floor, but that is, sleeping on a roll mat is no fun, and cold as well, particularly in April when you get that sort of changeable weather. But yeah, sort of going over, and it just takes its toll on you. So I could only do 1 or 2 nights a week, but I found that by putting the bait in, that brought them in. It probably caught me more fish because you're not going in and rinsing it straight away. You're not going in there and spending a week on it, catching everything, or a percentage, then the spots or the areas sort of blown. I found that by picking off like 3 and 4 at a time, then baiting, the fish would come back. And I sort of quickly realised there's probably a few more in there that self-spawned or whatever. But yeah, I had some funny occurrences over there with because it's not that far away from sort of a city, I suppose. And I had a couple of occasions, some real weird things going on there, but someone has set a tent up there, which is weird. Did I tell you about that? The tent? So I was fishing this, say, normal area. I don't see anyone over there because it's the side that is all brambles and fix. And I decided to walk around the other side of this reserve just because I thought the fish was spawning. So I thought I'll just walk down this side. And about 50, 60 yards from where I was fishing was a blue tent. And I'm thinking, what? Just a blue tent, like in the middle of the reserve. And I'm thinking, who the hell? I looked in, it's all zipped up. And I'm thinking, who the hell's that? So I plucked up a bit of courage. I took some pictures on my camera, actually. I got pictures of it. So I took a couple of pictures of it. I'm thinking, if anything happens here, like, you know. So I took a couple of pictures and said, hello, anyone there? No sound. So I got a bit more courage, got within 10 yards, done the same. Hello? No, nothing. So I'm like, I've got right up to the tent now and it's all zipped up and I'm thinking, well, it could be a dead body in here or it could be anything. I don't know. There's a few homeless people that sort of sleep around the area. So I was thinking it's probably one of those. So I plucked up the courage to zip, I thought I'd do it quick, zip down and looked in and there was a little sleeping bag and a pillow, but no one there, luckily. And I was like, who the hell is this? So I was in a bit of a quandary there, and it was like, this is early morning. This is like 6 in the morning when I usually leave from there. So I'm going there, getting there in the night, in the dark, leaving just on light rather. So I've got a bit of a quandary now. Do I leave it there? So what I did, and I'm not proud of this. I basically wrapped it all up, took it. And this is obviously probably someone's home. I took it out of the reserve and took it all the way back to Baitworks and burnt it. So I thought that might be so there's no evidence of it, but yeah, I don't know who it was, and it never got resurrected again. But yeah, just a real random one.
It's no wonder you had to work hard for the big uns, Mark. You're doing stuff like that.
That was
karma, mate.
Yeah, it probably was, and I didn't catch that. I caught quite a few fish that first year, but not the ones I was after until sort of the second year. But yeah, that was weird. Never, nothing ever happened again. But yeah, sleeping on the floor, that was hell on earth. In the end, I had a blow-up little mattress, and that was the one, because you could blow it up and you just get that elevation a little bit, and just that cold coming up through you. And I had some strange occurrences over there, and really spooky ones as well. And often I'd wear clothes into the reserve that I'd go straight to work in the morning. So I'd wear like my Baitworks hoodie and what I've been wearing the day before. Because often I'll be making bait obviously all week, and it's pointless having loads of different sets of clothes. You go through like 7 sets. So for the missus and that, I just said, look, I'll wear the same set of clothes every single day, and then on Friday we wash them or whatever. So that works. We kept them in a plastic bag. But when I used to fish the reserve, I used to put them on and then go to the reserve and sleep there. Now, I didn't think anything of it until I now slept. I'm on the floor, got my little blow-up bed, and I've got this little poncho just comes up on an angle above me, so nothing to shield you. And I'm led there and I'm sort of dozing. You never get a good night's sleep, so you're always on edge. And I heard this it was sounding like footsteps coming like from way down the reserve. I could hear something like moving. I was like, crikey, that sounds quite big. Hopefully it's an animal or something like that. I'm sort of led there, and it's getting closer and closer, and I'm thinking, geez, this could be someone like walking, because the anglers were going over and having a look. And I was thinking, shit, this is someone coming close. It got closer and closer and closer. And then now it's within 50 yards, and I'm thinking, I'm going to have to make a run for it or do something. And I'm thinking, who could it be? I literally had like a bank stick next to me, and I was like, well, I don't know if they, I just convinced myself it's just an angler walking around having a look, So anyway, it's got really close to me. My feet are sort of angling down the path towards where this sort of movement's coming from. And I kept really quiet, didn't breathe, because it's so like I hear a pin drop. And I hear this crunch, crunch, crunch. And it's got right up to literally within sort of, 5 yards. But where it's so dark in the canopy, I can't see what it is, but there's something up my feet. And I'm like, I'm going to have to break cover here. So it started to come forward, almost touching my feet. With that, I've moved out my sleeping bag and moved up. And I've heard this almighty screech. And this animal, which I presume is a badger, jumped literally up in the air, careered off left, went through my rods. My rods have gone everywhere, and it's gone herring off down the reserve, in through the water. I could hear it splashing and going through the reserve like 100 yards away. And twice my heart just in my mouth. And I sort of think, what the hell happened there? And it makes perfect sense. I must smell absolutely lovely to a badger. You know, I'm sat there and all my clothes are covered in fish meals and bird foods and you name it, it's on it and it stinks. And that's been wafting down the reserve, and this badger's picked up my scent sort of 200 yards away and just followed it up and got on top of me. But
talk to us a bit about closing the circle, Mark, on these. They were like dinosaurs, these fish, huge mouths, huge heads,
massive.
Bring in a little bit about because obviously the bream were a huge problem, and it might have been the first place you started using the massive hook baits.
Yes, it was.
Talk to us about how you finally managed to get, I think, one of them caught.
Yes,
albeit perhaps not quite as big as you were hoping.
Yeah. So, amongst all of this, what I failed to mention, the bream, there was absolutely loads of bream in there, and big ones as well. Typically like 7 to sort of 10 pound is sort of, I'd say, almost the average. Absolutely loads of them. So I was getting caned, putting bait in any amount of time. Once the bream turned up on you, they were just having the bait. So I progressively, as I was catching the bream, I was looking at the size of their mouths and seeing what they could eat, what they couldn't eat, and anything over a 25 miller they're having difficulty with. 30 miller is almost impossible. They would still suck around the hooks. You'd still hook the odd one or two. So I then started, in the second year certainly, started to be really selective with the baits that I was putting in. So being that obviously run my own business, I could make what I wanted, and I ended up buying a 30 mil machine, 30 mil rolling table, little table that big, from Spain of all places. That's the only place I could find one. And I used to hand roll the baits, and the beauty of the big baits, you didn't need loads of them because they were so selective. So it's not like a 15 miller where you put a kilo of 15s in there and the birds are going to have it in the bream. Once these go out, they stay there until they're eaten. So I decreased the amount of bait I was putting in. Rather than 5 kilos a night, I was putting in like only 2.5 kilos of these big baits. And they were like, 30 mil, and I was making then some sausages, which were specifically for hook baits, and I'd cut them at lengths of up to sort of 40 mil, was probably the biggest one. And diameter-wise, they were getting on for 25 to 30 mil as well. And I found that was, I wish I'd worked that out in the first year, because the second year of doing that, it meant that I'd go to sleep and it would only go off if there was a carp on the end. The bream and that wouldn't really get a look in on that sort of that size baits. So I was putting them out, and I found the best way to fish them was on a long hair, big hook. But also what was really important was not to fish a round bait on the hair. If I was going to fish a round bait, I ended up fishing barrels in the end, but squashing them down. So if you squashed them down, the bream would still try and move them. On a round bait, it'd twist your hook link up and you get like bits of leaf taken on it. But when you flattened them like dead panels, like pizzas, they'd stay, you put them down somewhere and they'd pretty much stay there because the fish couldn't roll them around. So I found that really, really effective. And that was the downfall then. I didn't catch as many carp there, but they were uber selective because the mouths had to be sort of that big. And it even ruled out some of the double figure commons and low 20s in there. And in the end, I managed to catch one of the fish. There was 2 fish in there. And the one fish, which was called the Jurassic, which should probably give a clue to guys who know where it is. That was last out like 10 years ago at 39.15. When I caught it, it was I think it's 34, 35, so it's down significantly in weight, but it's just such an old fish. It's on its decline. So at one point it had probably been over 40 pound. But when I caught it, and that was on a really bizarre sort of night of being sort of eaten alive by mosquitoes, and then on a big huge bait, he's trundled off and managed to play this old relic back. And as soon as it went in the net, I could see the dorsal was really stubby, got no dorsal at all, and knew which one it was. So didn't think, I was sort of half expecting that one not to be in there. So it was lovely to sort of catch that one. So caught that one. And then quickly after that, caught a number of other bigger fish, and an unknown. There was a 35 pound common, which no wreck, no pictures, no nothing. So after that, the otters were on there. They're quite prevalent all through my time on there. So the big fish on there, I hadn't seen, didn't feel I got really close to it. I felt I may have lost the big fish, but was unsure of which one it was, and sort of had to sort of draw my time probably to a close after that, because I was starting to get repeat captures.
Was it one of those, a case of like you always had in your head what it'd be like to bank one of those 2 big mirrors, and the phone call you'd make, perhaps. I don't know if you did self-takes or not, Mark.
I done self-takes of them all, yeah, I did. I was so protective trying to get there and out. And I suppose, you know, the other fish in there, which I was sort of targeting, was a bigger fish, certainly a mid-40. If I'd have caught that one, I would have probably give you a call, to be fair, or something like that.
I do remember one particularly sneaky move. We might have to edit this question out if you're not happy to talk about it. But
you're going to mention the scales,
yes,
aren't you?
so devious.
Yeah. No. I was thinking. So I'll talk about it. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So at the time there was, I say, other anglers, and I said I used a couple of tricks. And this reserve and that, it was always a bit of an unknown. There was always, because the clarity wasn't great there, you couldn't really see. You see the odd fish, so everyone thought there might be some big fish in there. Have they died? Are they still there? There's always that sort of element of doubt. So I've sort of tried to play on that. And there was a couple of anglers who started to go over there and started to fish it. And I was like, oh crikey, I've got to try and put them off. And I thought, well, I've done the gunshot cartridge sort of trick and that, and I don't know if it's going to work for these guys. But I knew that they would have a seed. I knew them as well. That was the thing. I knew of them. And I knew I could sow a seed of doubt somehow in their minds. They probably wouldn't stay the course, because it's a difficult lake anyway. And I was putting bait in and yes, catching fish. But, you know, prior to that, people were going over and maybe having 1 or 2 in a year. So it's a tricky, difficult place to fish for all the things that I've mentioned. So at the time, there was obviously a lot of otters running right on the water park. I would come across carcasses and get phoned up by people. Oh, there's a lake, you know, someone on this lake, the fish has died or whatever. And I'd go over and bury it or whatever. So on one occasion, I'd found there was a fish dead, and I got called out and to sort it out. And there was a load of scales, just loads and loads of scales, big scales as well, like big scales. And I was thinking, yeah, they're massive scales. It's a shame for them to go to waste. So I basically collected up a handful of them. And the good thing about scales is if you let them, you can let them almost dry completely out, and obviously they go really crispy in that. But if you keep them hydrated, they stay pristine, like almost like they were plucked off a fish that morning. So I basically kept them in a glass of water, put them in the van, and next time I went down to the reserve, these guys were fishing in a particular area which I thought they were going to get caught anyway. But there's a causeway next to them. I thought, right, if I scatter a few scales there, they go in and out of this area, they're going to see it. So I scattered these scales in on this causeway and just left them there. And then there was another guy who I brought into play. There was a dog walker who goes up there regularly. And I sort of befriended him and got to know him. And I messaged him and just said, oh, just a heads up, mate. There's apparently some scales been found up on the reserve. Thought you might be of interest, because I know he walks his dog up there. And he talks to everybody. So he's gone up there and he's spotted them and he's told everyone, oh, big carp, yeah, big scales and that down there. Got back to these 2 guys and that, and they only lasted probably another 2 weeks after that. I didn't think they caught anything and sort of left. So yeah.
Amazing.
Bit of an underhand. Yeah, morally I don't know.
Morally that's fine. I'm about to explain why that's fine morally,
okay.
Right? Poaching is not something to be condoned.
No, not at all. Yeah.
We've all done it. I'm not condoning it. What I'm about to say is that if it's neutral territory, you know, there's no fishing allowed, then, you know, it's a grey area in fishing. We do, however, have an obligation to put our best foot forward as anglers. And if you saw people on that lake who were going to get caught,
yeah,
and perhaps wouldn't have handled it well or whatever, you don't know how they're going to handle getting caught by a ranger.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you should try and put people off, but if you are going to poach, like you were doing, go to every length to make sure that no one knows you're there.
Yeah.
You don't need to show the pictures to all and sundry.
Yeah. I've never shown the photos. It's all been kept very, very personal to me.
But my point is, don't go poaching for Instagram.
Yeah.
And if you do, make sure that you're like doing the best for angling at the same time. Like, no one knows you're there, and let it stay like that. Don't go and fish where these guys were, who were in all likelihood going to get caught.
Yeah.
So maybe you inadvertently did it a favour.
Well, I like to think so. I think the lengths I went to get in and out, I'd left, you know, even like on the way out, where I just slept that night, odd brush sort of the track, so there's no footprint, there's nothing there, just no one would ever know that I was there, like, you know. So that was part of the buzz, getting in and out, and keeping it all to myself, because it was personal. It wasn't for my bait company or anything, and I've never shown any of those photos to this day. You know, this day, maybe I will one day, because the fish are no longer there now. But you know, it was exciting and really thrilling fishing. I miss that.
And what you touched on there, thrilling. People have different motivations for catching carp. That was a very personal quest, and it gave you a thrill that perhaps you can't get. Even by catching a big one and publicising it and having the adulation of all around you.
Yes.
It was a private moment when you did catch them. And not something that you can really recreate.
Hard to recreate that and find that. I think I've been searching for that ever since, really. And there are a few waters around with that unknown quantity. You know, the Thames and that holds interest because of the unknown, just the unknown. You know, you don't know what's swimming, and I think that's what captivated me as a boy, and it still does today, really. And I love that sense of adventure and unknown, and you know, the story behind the fish. It's nice to have stories behind the fish, but then again, it's sometimes nice not to know.
And those fish had appeared in print, hadn't they?
Yes, they had.
I'm not say where necessarily, but they were out there. That you knew they were there because you'd seen them.
Absolutely.
In the book.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what inspired me. You know, that's seeing them. You know, in the day of non-publicity, and that, you know, publicity is really important because it inspires you to go and want to fish for these fish. And you know, in a world, if we didn't have, you know, the old Richie McDonald sort of those shots and that, for me, really inspired me as a youngster. Peter Springate, you know, they're really, really important. And finding those waters are gems. And unfortunately, it was somewhere where I had to, you know, go above and beyond to fish it. And as you say, I don't condone that, and you know, I shouldn't have been there, full stop. But I like to think that I was there, but I wasn't there.
Being respectful, though, Mark, isn't it? It's being respectful. Yeah, you're like a ghost. You move in.
Yeah.
No one sees you. You're not looking for likes. You just go out and it's a personal quest, which is fantastic.
Yeah. I think
and inspirational in its own right.
Well, it's personal for me. I've told a few people sort of the story, and particularly at the time, you know, when I was actually heavily doing that style of fishing, I was talking to you, and you sort of bring a few people along on the journey, don't you, by sort of sharing, I suppose. And I really loved it. I really, really loved it.
Would it be fair to say you haven't recaptured that intensity in your angling since?
In spells, definitely in spells. I put a lot of energy into my business, but there'll be little spells where I will get these little windows, and I'll drop everything. Everything goes by the wayside, family included. You know, I have to be a little bit selfish, and I will put a lot of time and effort into that period, whatever it may be. And 9 times out of 10, that comes in the winter now for me, because that's when it's a bit quieter and I can pinch a bit more time. But no, I do get quite obsessive, and not to the extent of chucking scales around and stuff like that, but who knows?
No, I was going to say, it's practically impossible to reach those heights. It must be. Like to where you're burying stuff in the ground, sleeping on the floor. You know, it's a young man's game, Mark.
I tell you, sleeping on the floor, doing that style of fishing, you need to be a little bit agile, and I'm certainly not that. And it's just, it's a mindset, but it's something. Funny enough, there's local waters around here which you could possibly do something similar, and it's always in the back of my head.
The juice is flowing, but I imagine the old pelvis wouldn't take it so well, Mark, if you're on the cold floor now.
No, crikey, no, that would struggle. Yeah, all the nuts and bolts and that would freeze up. Dose yourself in cod liver oil before you go.
You need to be taking a bit of antifreeze.
Yeah, Tin Man.
Over the past couple of years, lots of anglers have been disappearing into Europe to try and find that adventure that they're still looking for in their angling. And don't get me wrong, I love the thought of disappearing and getting that European fix, but all you guys that have been with me since the start of my channel, you'll all remember that it's still that chase for me of finding these big wild carp that still reside in our waters, and this campaign has been exactly that. Me and a good friend Tom set out a couple of years ago to figure out what this lake had to offer. Come on then! Yes. Seems like all that effort's worthwhile when you catch ones like that. Oh my god, here we go mate. We're gonna go and fish the big pit, boy! Let's do it.
Finally.
I've been boxed in here by some dildo.
Oi, leave Yaris alone. He's a fucking trooper.
Whoa. Here we go. And we're off. We are off. I'm gonna be like that. For a couple of years now, I've had this lake in the back of my mind, and from the very beginning, I knew that it was going to be a bit of a challenge. It's completely different to what I'm used to. There's going to be so much boat work involved, and we've got to get down there and cut a few swims out, and it's just everything that goes with it is going to be a challenge. And we came down here a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't really time it right. It was -5, something like that. The lake's 120 acres and half of it was frozen. So it wasn't a good time to be baiting up. So we're back today. We're coming down to cut out a swim and we're gonna fill it in. And in a couple of weeks, we're gonna come back and get some rods on it. We all get that excitement from a new water or a new toy, but you should always think for your safety first, and this is something that we both didn't take into consideration before going out in the boat. It wasn't until later on that day I realised just how stupid we'd been not wearing the life jacket and being out there in those freezing conditions. Safety must always come first. Are you looking forward to getting out on the vessel?
Always. Love an adventure. Am I scared? Yes. Come back quick.
Guard that with your life.
I mean, I'll try.
Guard that. It's gonna get dirty. It's gonna get dirty, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I can definitely fit all my stuff in there.
First adventure out on Tom's new vessel. It is a little bit snug, but it's doing the job.
What should we call it? You've got to give it a name.
HMS Cod. That's not funny for sauce, is it?
HMS Idiots, more like that.
Oh dear. Proper cool. We've actually made it onto the island.
Made it.
Proper fishing, mate, this is.
Let's get exploring.
Right, now the next thing is to find a fishable spot in the spring. In there. But come this far, I'm sure we can find something. I'm pretty sure that this is quite a cool spot. Look at that. But so while I'm standing on here, this is basically solid in the spring, and then you got all of this, which I'm pretty sure, mate, this wouldn't be here in the spring. But it's only up to there on my welly. So I'm pretty sure this is overflow from the water. Well, I'm hoping that anyway. But if not, we can put 2 bed chairs here. Fish out. It's doable, man. All the hard work and all the preparation has now been done. Me and Tom have been putting in some serious effort over the last month to get down to this pit and start prepping some spots. It's looking quite a good little stash spot now, eh?
Oh, yeah. So I reckon we could get the sofa over here. 50-inch TV there. Pool table. I think this would be a good little while. Sweet.
On the first occasion that we came down for a little recce on the lake, the conditions were savage. It was -5, probably something like that. This lake is 120 plus acres and half of it was frozen, but we just got a new boat between us and we were really excited, and we went out trying to find some spots, which was absolutely stupid, but you know, it's one of those things you look back on now and you wish you'd never done it. But last night, under the cover of darkness, we turned up, we slept under the stars, we whacked the rods out, we're tucked away, and we both were getting multiple liners, so there's obviously something around. We're fishing in really close, and as you can see, I'm tucked away, and it's so exciting because I haven't really done any fishing like this for quite some time now, so I'm praying tonight is going to bring an opener for me or Tom, so yeah, fingers crossed.
Close your eyes, hear the voice within calling. This heavy load got under your skin, hauling. You got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your feelings bottled up inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at the colors, colors, colors around. Moments pass, make this one count. Untie. You're so good at dragging yourself down. Why? Well, there ain't much time left to figure things out. Deep underneath all the laser, you're down.
A couple of weeks later, you could just tell that it wasn't going to be long before the fish started to move. The sun was out in full force by now, and the water temperature must have just been warming up that degree or two. And I launched the drone to try and get a few scenics for this video, and I was starting to see fish moving. I was starting to see them shoaling up and congregating in an area of the lake which we weren't fishing. So we had to get on the move and chase them down, and I'm very glad that we did.
You got the white knuckles holding on it tight, keeping your feels bottled up inside, heading for collision in the night. To really live, you gotta die.
Guys, you look like Dave Vane.
Breathe out. Hey, come alive. Breathe in, breathe out. Look at the colors, colors, colors around. Look at the colors, colors, colors around. Look at the colors, colors, colors around. Look at the colors, colors, colors around.
Did you hear that go?
No, I just heard you going, I'm in.
Out the bed and a roar. What were you saying about the whippy pool? Well, there's been no head shakes. That's the, they were there yesterday. It's what we've been waiting for, isn't it?
Yeah, about time.
All the prep work.
All that madness last night.
Yeah. We knew something would pay off though, didn't we, if we put in that effort last night. Oh my god, that's what it is. I've got oh, you got to get that off the line.
Oh shit. You a boy.
Oh shit, we've got one. Yes. Well, yesterday we put in some serious effort. We were chasing fish around all day long, and we realised that they didn't like it. You just could not stalk them out yesterday. They were in a real skittish mood. So we decided to stop chasing them about, stick some bait on the spot and wait for it. And 10 o'clock this morning, about the time we saw them yesterday, they've turned up. And this came to Little Libby Pool, fished over some park. We've opened the account on this big pit with Clean Common. Like I said, yesterday when I was looking at them from the tree, there were so many different varieties of these comments. A lot of them were dark, a lot of light ones, and looks like we just got a nice clean one here. Brilliant way to start. 1st of April today, so the old winter preparations paid off.